We have exclusive breaking news about the fight between the Walt Disney Board of Directors and the Nelson Peltz Trian Partners Group. You'll only hear it first here on the WDW Pro Channel. Explaining entertainment, getting you ahead of the culture curve. We are back again, and this time we are going to be breaking some big-time news exclusively here on the WDW Pro Channel. Make sure that as we get ready to break this news for you that you're clicking the like button, hit subscribe and share this thing out. Also, that cute little notification bell, it's for clicking. So please click it and stick it to the algorithms. Joining us today to talk about the Walt Disney Board and the chaos that is ensuing following all kinds of drama with Nelson Peltz and the Trian Partners Group, we have yet again the one, the only. You know him as Mexican Iron Man. I know him as Mike. Mike, welcome back to the channel.
Thanks so much for having me back on the channel. I had a blast on the video that we did last week. I've enjoyed the other videos that your channel's released, and I encourage everybody to check out all the videos of this channel because what you're bringing to YouTube, you brought it for years on the web, journalistically, but now what you and your team are doing on YouTube, I think is fascinating, great, and it's a wonderful value add.
We know for years the idea was to put the information out there and then allow it to be disseminated by others. Now, you know, we're trying an attempt. This is what this is, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to have successes. We're going to have failures, but we're going to learn from those mistakes. And the attempt is just basically to be the conduit that is putting out the information that's important, that people need to know, and specifically the people who want to understand what's going on in their world around them in terms of culture. Because if you think about it, so much comes from culture. I mean, you can talk about politics, you can talk about why things are working the way they are in terms of wars and geopolitical situations. So much of our lives are impacted by culture. And one of the things I've mentioned before is that, you know, you'll notice that small children that are being raised in a religious background, let's say, they'll be raised in that religious background, and yet they know the lyrics to their favorite Frozen song much quicker than they know the lyrics to their favorite hymn. These things are deeply important and embedded in us, and the people who make the decisions behind entertainment are often shrouded in mystery. Their decisions are often misunderstood, and how they're doing the things that impact our world and change our societies are obscured from the average person, and we want to fix that. We want to make it easy to understand. That's what we're going to do today. Mike, you are here to talk to all of us about a topic that the audience has been screaming for. And again, everybody, please be patient and stay with us on this video. We're going to get to breaking news. Before we do, though, we need to contextualize it. Mike is going to walk us through the board of directors at the Walt Disney Company, explain who they are, and then we're going to get into something that is, well, it's a world exclusive. So Mike, take it away. Lead us through these big time decision makers at Disney, which is, in fact, one of the biggest generators of culture in the world.
Indeed. And one of the things that I'm going to start with is that we don't give enough attention to boards of directors of the companies that have the properties and the IPs that we care most about. Too often, and I can say that even I, as a commentator on YouTube, am guilty of this. We worry about what director did this with what movie, what writer did this, what studio exec did that, what Iger does, what chapek does, what different executives may do at different companies. But it's the board of directors that decides who these executives are, and the executives in turn decide who these studio other execs, directors, and et cetera are. We need to give more attention to the directors of the companies that have the IPs that we care about. In the case of Disney, that's up on the screen, are the 12 members of the board. Now, because of the recent election, the recent controversy, Susan Arnold on the top left, chairman of the board, will no longer be serving. She'll be stepping down. Mark Parker has been elected to take her place as chair. We'll discuss.
She's taking her chair with her.
And taking her chair with us. So although we see 12 squares on the screen, there will only be 11 when she leaves. And for a long time, Disney had 10 people. We'll get into the number of board chairs, but this number of 11 is going to be very important, this reduction from 12 to 11, with something else we're going to talk about later. Now, the first thing I want to highlight on this screen is the lackluster number of years of experience that this board has in terms of being at Disney.
Minus 2 people, correct?
Well, even those 2 people don't have really that long of a tenure. I mean, aside from Iger, if we take Iger out of the equation,
that's who I'm talking about for one of them.
Susan Arnold's been there for what, 15 years now?
Right, that's the second. And then after that, it's a steep drop off.
It is a steep drop. Of Francis D'Souza, director since 2018. Maria Elena Lagomasino, director since 2015. Okay, well, there's 7 years. Maria Tiabara, 17. Carolyn Everson, 2022. Calvin R. McDonald, 2021. Safra A. Katz, 2018. Michael Froman, 2018. The new chair, Mark Parker, 2016. Amy Chang, 2021. Bob Iger, well, we already know that story. And Derica Rice, 2019. Now, for a 100-year company, it's important to note that members of the board of directors are stewards of the company. They are the safeguard. They are the trustees, essentially, of the brand, of the mission, of the vision of the company. And what we see here, if in baseball or football terms, is pretty much a rookie roster. That's what we're going to be.
Mike, let me ask some questions about this for the audience. Okay, let me play the everyman in this situation and just ask you a couple of things that'll help everybody, I think, out there. First question I have for you is, what do you say to the people who would argue that these individuals are really just avatars for the institutional investors that back them, and therefore you could swap them out, it doesn't matter, because their decisions are being made behind closed doors at larger, even power brokers in society?
I would agree with that assessment, and we're going to get into that shortly, because if you start looking at who these people are, and I'm just going to slap through them real quickly, whether it's, this is Francis, this is Maria Elena Lagomasino, this is Mary Barra, Carolyn Everson, Calvin McDonald from Lululemon, Safra Katz, Michael Froman, Derica Rice, Amy L. Chang, and of course, Mark Parker. And we already know Susan Arnold and Bob Iger. This is our new chairman, Mark Parker from Nike. Now you ask an interesting question. Let's go right to that. When we look at the top 3 institutional investors of Disney, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and State Street. Okay. I think that's fascinating.
Familiar names to most people. Many people watching may have some of their investments and retirements in some of those companies.
Let's go to Nike. And why are we going to Nike? Because that's where Mr. Parker hails from. He is still executive chairman over there. He's still one of the 3 largest individual stockholders at 1.45 million shares of Nike stock. And look at who the top 3 institutional investors are of Nike. You see any overlap?
Exactly. And so many of these people, their power sources are coming from some of the same companies. It's interlapping quite a bit here.
Exactly. And even though I'm telling people that we have to look at who are the directors, we really have to go even a step higher than that. All of the videos, all of the attention that we all as fans give to this director, KK, this, and this, and this, it's really the analogy that I want to bring to this video is that it's a lot like complaining about a drop ball or a bad play. And we've got to look at who's the owner of the team, who's the front office management, and who's directing those decisions. And in the case of Disney, the owners are the investors. Now, with the recent Peltz move, where he wanted to be on, he wanted a seat at the table of the board of directors.
Mike, let's pause there for the people who have not seen the video before. I mean, we're adding subscribers all the time. There are people discovering this channel all the time. Describe for everybody out there watching what you're talking about and who you're talking about when you say Nelson Peltz.
Nielsen Peltz is an activist investor with the Trian Group, and it's an investment fund. They acquired $900 million worth of Disney stock, and he wanted several things. He wanted a seat on the board of directors. We now know from a recent SEC filing that this did not come out of the blue and was not a recent set of events. This is something that he's been around for a while in terms of his efforts to exert influence. We know that he wants to see a succession plan. He doesn't want to come in and necessarily replace Iger instantly, but he wants to see a succession plan. We know that he has complaints and gripes about the compensation of the executives, and we know that he has concerns about the cost cutting. And he put all of his thoughts together into a presentation. That he did called
Restore the Magic.
Restore the Magic. And that's what's up on your screen right now. This is available. This was the Trian Partners, January 11th, 2023. And what I want to
say too, Mike, that Trian Partners, up until the point when they became labeled in sort of a negative way by the media, they were known as one of the most successful groups out there in terms of beating the stock market. They have a tremendous history in doing extremely well. Whether or not you think that they've gamed the system in the way that they purchase companies at a low level and that have high potential, whatever you think the case may be, the track record is stunning.
It is. And his stunning, in fact, in his own presentation, they've been averaging over 600 points above S&P. Let's talk about the performance on the flip side of that equation, which has to do with this board of directors specifically. And in this slide encompasses, really captures the problem that we have. So when we have here in the first column, we have the names of the directors that we just talked about. You see that on the left, right here on column one? The tenure in the second column is the number of years that they've been there. Then we go to TSR. What is TSR? Total shareholder return. And what this column shows is that since this person got on the board, what is the total shareholder return that Disney has reported with their stewardship as a member of the board of directors? And how does that compare to the S&P 500, which would be the industry standard, right? Because the S&P 500 is an index of those companies. And what we see here, for example, in terms of our rookie performance here, whether it's, if we look at Carolyn, Calvin, Emil, Chang, Derek Rice. So basically, since these people have been on the board, the decisions that they've made in that same time period, those differences are massive. So for example, since Amy Chang has been there, the total shareholder return has been down 47% versus while she's been a director, the entire market, the S&P index, has been down 4%. We look at Derica, in his tenure, the S&P has had 52% in that 4-year time period, yet the decisions that he's been a part of has brought Disney down to 15%. And basically what this chart shows is that time and time again, this board of directors, if we look at what decisions they've endorsed during their tenure, whether it's been 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, Disney as a company is underperforming the S&P 500, yet this is a company that has more profit centers and more diverse ways to make money, because WDW Pro, they can make money with movies, TV, sports,
Cruises,
merchandise,
theme parks,
cruise ships.
Keep going and going. That's right.
Hotels. I mean, we could do another hour just on, we're not going to, but we could keep going and break all of this apart. And let's go back to the theme that you said, which is what I'll go ahead and
let me play devil's advocate real quick, Mike. Let me play devil's advocate. It's only fair that we do this.
Yes, sir.
Were this document to have come out 2 years ago, it would have looked very different. And that would have been back when Disney was riding the wave of people being at home so often, and they were using Disney Plus at a very high level. Subscriptions were going through the roof. But then, as that began to subside and as Disney Plus began to be less attractive for what seems to me to be socio-political issues that Disney brought into their company, it seems to me that the board began acting in the way that Robert Iger wanted versus what former CEO Bob Chapek wanted. even if Chapek at some point changed his course and joined the good ship Iger in becoming a political company, it seems to me that they sort of they gave away the golden goose they had. Is that your feeling on it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the reasons why I don't want to give this board of directors a break in terms of saying, well, if this chart was done earlier, well, you know what, when you play baseball, maybe the home team was ahead 3-0 in the second inning, but we've got to look at where we at in the ball game right now.
That's right. Fourth quarter, right? Doesn't matter what you did in the first quarter. If the fourth quarter you're down,
because that's the question, right? So if we have a manager that put in a lousy but left-handed instead of a right-hander, and he's just stuck with the guy that was in it, the whole point of this is that
you and I listen. Me and you though, we're on different tracks here because you're doing baseball and I'm doing basketball and football. So we need to get together in some way here. I'm just messing with you. Our metaphors were a little bit confused. I can just feel people in the comment section being like, "Wait a minute, which one of you doesn't know about the other sport?" Don't get us into curling. That's the one place we have no idea what we're doing. We're going to need a Canadian in here. Paul for curling.
There you go. I'm baseball first and football second. I never watched basketball, so
there you go.
But in this case, but let's get back to the chart. So basically, what we have here, and what I think Nilsson and the Trian Group have aptly observed, is that we've got a board of directors that is not making wise, prudent decisions that create long-term value and are going to help this company get back to where it was. Remember, in our previous video, I think we discussed that if we look at the capitalization, sure, they may be back up to hovering about $95 to $100 a share now. But in the last 21 months, I mean, they were just recently in the mid to high 80s, and who knows where they're going to go. The peaks and valleys.
The bottom doesn't have to be where it was. It can go lower.
It can, and if anyone, and there were times where people said there's no way Disney would ever go below 100, let alone 90, and it's been there. And one thing we've seen is that on average, the last 22 months, this stock averaged out has lost anywhere from 1.5 to 1.8 billion dollars worth of value consistently overall, if you were just to look at the last 21 and a half months.
Well, you know, the thing for Disney here is that you can talk about how small the box office is in terms of the revenue that the company makes. But as far as the impact and the ripple effect of the box office, of content being popular, I mean, Disney cannot continue to exist as a company in the place that it has been if its content continues to be unpopular. Outside of Encanto, the stuff that Disney's been putting out in the movie theaters is on a decline in terms of their animation, in terms of Marvel. There's no Star Wars. And what that does is that over time, it means that there's less enthusiasm for merchandise. There's less enthusiasm for going to the theme parks to experience that content. There's less enthusiasm for acquiring and holding on to Disney Plus. So yes, this is a domino effect that the company has to solve. They cannot continue to have floundering media content that families are largely abandoning.
That's correct. That's correct. So this is Nelson. This is what he looks like. And I think what we should do is let's go back to the chart here where we're going to have 11 directors. Now, the piece of information before we close out this video that I wanted to share is that I have a source. It's a trusted source.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Oh,
wait a minute, Mike.
Okay.
We've got to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for breaking news on the WDW Pro Channel with Mike Mexican Ironman. I've messed up your name. Oh my gosh. We're brand new at this, ladies and gentlemen. We are brand new at breaking news. We apologize. All right, Mike, take it away.
A very good contact, trusted source of mine, who I can't reveal the name, but this is what I know. BlackRock has a list of 12 people, 12 professionals for its assigned 3 seats on the Disney board of directors, that if any 1, 2, or 3 of these directors have issues, problems, conflicts, whatnot, that they can be rotated in. So, and the purpose of this is that so that BlackRock will be able to hold and retain 3, in this case, of the 11 future voting seats at Disney. And if we want to extrapolate then, and we know that Bob Iger, Mr. Iger, is kind of going to go with sort of the corporate direction that BlackRock investments like to go in, then that's 4 out of 11. And if we know that, which we do, that Mark Parker is going to be the chairman that's most endorsed by Bob Iger. We're now at 5 out of 11 seats. Right. And given these recent directors that are young and impressionable, and why would I say that they're impressionable? Because any group of board of directors that so quickly goes from endorsing one CEO to another CEO and firing that CEO to replace another one is an impressionable group of people that does not swayed. That can be swayed and swayed easily. And frankly, if it shows anything, it shows that they were able to be swayed and they had not done their due diligence previous to the recent conflicts that we saw erupt in the media in the last month or two with this.
So let me say this, Mike.
So with this information, let me just finish this thought real quick. Is that what this means is that while there might be a lot of media attention on Peltz and the moves that he's making to make Disney a profitable company, there is entrenchment and there is a deep bench by the other side that wants Disney to stay the course and wants to make sure it has people on the directors board to stay that course.
Sure. Who will do the bidding of these institutional investors. Now, let me just say that a couple of months ago, I broke on the Renegade Online show that Hugh Jackman was in negotiations with Marvel to return, or not to return, but to become a part of the MCU. That was proven to be true 2 weeks later. A couple of weeks ago, I announced that there was a Zelda movie being developed by Illuminations. 2 days later, that was corroborated by Giant Freaking Robot. Not saying that to toot my horn. What I'm doing there in saying that is that if I didn't think that Mike had the goods on this, we wouldn't be doing this video. I think Mike absolutely has the information. That said, because we are keeping this source anonymous for absolutely clear reasons, because we can't independently verify it for you, this should be treated as rumor and speculation, because it has to go in that category when we start talking in the way that we have been. But just pay attention to the track record. Mike, say it one more time for us. There's 3 seats you said that BlackRock apparently has the ability to control, even if these individuals leave it. Do I have that right?
Yes, and they've got a bench of 12 people deep. So breaking news there. I don't think anybody else has covered that, and that is highly pertinent because this is going to impact the attempts by Nelson Peltz to get onto the board. So I've got 2 questions for you before you wrap this up. Question number 1 is going to be, why does he want on the board? Question number 2 is going to be, what can the board, and we're essentially at that point talking about institutional investors. Like you said, we're talking about the people who are behind the curtains, right? Mm-hmm. But what can they do to stop him? So why does he want on the board? How can they stop him? Well, he wants to be on the board because he recognizes that this is a company that's undervalued, underperforming, and can perform better and issue return on investment, and he's a major stockholder. And the reason he wants to be on is because he has a track record of other companies dating back over the past decade and a half that he has been able to lead proxy battles, get on the board, and with new stewardship, new direction, add a lot of value to company and get companies on the right track. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to get Disney on the right track. What was the second part of the question, sir?
Second question, what can the board, and by that we mean the institutional investors, what can they do to stop him? How will they use this power of the 3-seat control, which apparently BlackRock has? How will they use that to stop him? How does that practically affect it?
They've already started. For example, when he wanted to do the presentation, they only gave him 45 minutes. They refused to ask questions. They've already denied him a board seat. What they're going to need to do, what Nielsen's going to need to do is get enough proxy votes. Let me go, as much as we're talking about the directors, the shareholders elect the directors. And so what Nielsen needs to do, and what BlackRock and the others are going to want to stop him from doing,
who themselves are shareholders, huge
shareholders. But what we need is, it's literally like an election. We need 50. Nielsen needs over 50% or more. He needs a voting block that's large enough that he can decide who is on the board completely. This is beyond This is beyond him just getting a seat, one seat. I think that ship is now passed. He now if he's going to go through with this proxy fight, he needs to get other shareholders involved that are institutions that see what he sees, and they want to then come in and vote in the directors, so that those three, for example, they could elect more seats, and then the 3 doesn't matter as much, because right now that 3 against 11 matters a lot.
So BlackRock and Vanguard, they have particular doctrines and beliefs that they hold when they're analyzing how to impact the world. Nelson Peltz has a very different way that he approaches that, and I'm sure that the institutions behind him share his same view of the world. I don't want to get into politics, but This feels to me like 2 different ideologies or 2 different spectrums of politics and business politics are going to duke it out, and Disney is just the battleground for them to do so. Do I have that right?
Yes, sir. You have that exactly right.
All right. And, that actually parallels what we're seeing in the real world on the big screen, on the small screen, is that fans, who many of them are shareholders, fans are watching this battle, this socio-political, cultural battle take place within the Disney company. They're watching their content become driven by ideology and agenda. So it's just amazing to me to watch that the machinations of the company are percolating out of this proxy fight, or this real fight inside the company, percolating out into the content that it creates. So Mike, give us your final thoughts, and then also help us find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there. Tell us where we can go to find that Mexican Iron Man we so need.
I'm on Twitter at Mike Canúl SJ, YouTube channel. I don't really put a lot of this financial stuff on there, but I love being part of the team over at Midnight's Edge. Love being your guest. Love helping out Valiant Renegade. I also appear on Doomcock Show Wednesdays.
Yeah, we love all of those channels. Highly recommend everybody go check those out and subscribe to them. Great stuff.
And really hope that people delve deep into the content on this channel, as well as the articles that your website has, because there's a lot of history of Disney that you've got on the website, and I think that adds this interesting backdrop. I really see that what we've got to do as fans of, whether it's your Star Wars or Marvel or any of the Fox properties that are not really been utilized, we need to give more attention to institutional investors, and we need to give more attention to who the board of directors are, because they're the ones that really are making the decisions at the high level. By the time we complain about this actor, this director, this studio head, that the game is so fun that we're not keeping our eye on the real prize, and that prize is that we have to look at who is doing what. And a lot of the institutional investors are doing it, ladies and gentlemen, with your money, your 401ks, your SEPs, your IRAs, your index funds. They're using your money to make decisions about your culture and your content that you love and your IPs. And it's your resources that they're using in these index funds. So we need to hold these funds accountable, and we need to hold these directors accountable.
Very well said, Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy content like this, click the like button, click subscribe, share this out, hit the notification bell. And remember that it is indeed these institutional investors controlling these companies who they have the power to determine what your children will be singing and what songs they will hear, the messages in them, when they go to school next year and years to come, because those giant power brokers control the companies of culture. We'll see you real soon.